You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Welcome to another wonderful episode. Today we have another amazing guest, Stacy Spikes, an award-winning entrepreneur and inventor who USA Today named one of the 21 most influential Black leaders in tech. He holds several technology patents and is the co-founder and CEO of the nation's first theatrical subscription service, MoviePass. In addition, Spikes is the founder of Urban World, the largest international festival dedicated to nurturing women and BIPOC filmmakers. His memoir, Black Founder, was released in January 2023. Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm thrilled. Now, we chatted a little before and we figured out we both lived, and you live in Greenwich Village, and I used to live there. So that's the first thing. And also that you are a filmmaker, and I used to be a filmmaker. So that's amazing. I was amazed, however, at the story you were telling me of MoviePass because I had no idea. And apparently there's a documentary about this. Why don't you fill people in who aren't aware of the documentary, what went on there?
Sure. So first off, thanks for having me. This is really an honor. So I was a co-founder of MoviePass. My co-founder's name is Hamay Watt, and we wanted to develop Netflix for movie theaters. And the idea was, could we create an all-you-could-eat subscription service that would allow people to go to any movie they wanted, anytime, anywhere? And so it took a few years to get it on its feet, but we were able to do that. We were able to create some emerging technologies that ended up getting us patents for. And ultimately, we exited the company and we sold it, and a private equity group bought it. And similar to our conversation we were having, we had a 2-year lockup period while they transitioned into the driver's seat. And one of the things that they wanted to do was drop the price to $9.95 from a $30 price point. And it was supposed to be promotional, and we were going to put in 100,000 people at that level, and we figured it might take a few months. It took 48 hours for us to get 100,000 people, and I immediately said, you have to turn this price point off. There's no way it's profitable. And they said, but look how fast we're growing. And so they wanted to keep it on and keep it going. And ultimately, we agreed to disagree. They forced me and Hamay out of the company, and they went bankrupt. They burned through $250 million, went bankrupt, and I ended up buying the company back and relaunching it. And so Mark Wahlberg and the team over at HBO thought it was an amazing American, business story and wanted to tell it. And so they optioned the rights, and they ended up making a documentary, which is on HBO Max. It premiered about 3 weeks ago, and it went #2 on the channel. And I think if anyone is in business, it's a great, not only how to, but what not to do movie about the wild, wild west that can be called entrepreneurship in the movie business.
Now, I'm guessing that you were in this documentary.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All over it. Okay.
Yeah.
You're probably also making money from the documentary, correct?
No.
No.
One of the things that, docs tend to be more like news. So if you're getting, there's an open case that the two guys who took it over are facing federal charges. And one of the things you don't want in an open case is if there's a doc or something out there that you're somehow financially benefiting, it can look like you intentionally put that out to smear them or their clients. So intentionally, I've not taken a single penny from the documentary because of that.
Right. And you don't need to. Okay.
Yeah.
So now what I was fascinated with was They went through, did you say $250 million they went through?
$250 million, yeah, $250
Quar-
million
Okay,
in
so they
under
had
12 months.
other people's money involved, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
not good. And
yeah.
then you proceeded to buy this company for how much?
Bought it back for $140,000. It was roughly valued at around $500 million in 2017. And
Hmm.
then after it went through the bankruptcy courts and everything, bought it back in 2022
Hmm.
and relaunched it.
So you bought that for the price of a house in some town in America. Let's just
Yes,
relativize that
that's a
purchase.
good framing. Yeah,
Right, right?
yeah,
Not a good place. Somewhere, some
yeah,
town in America is
yeah,
probably that would be like a C-class neighborhood, right?
yeah,
That's what you got this that used to be valued at 500 million, did you say?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And then you proceeded to build it back up. So what's going on with the company now?
So we finished 2023 profitably. So it was the first year of profitability for the company. Already halfway through 24, we are profitable, and we're now, getting it back on its feet, introducing a lot of new innovation, and really helping drive traffic back to movie theaters, which a lot of people don't realize movie going is the number one out of home entertainment activity in the world, no matter what
Hmm.
market you go to. And people go to the movies 10 times more than they go to sporting events combined.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an untapped resource. I think that it needs some technology upgrades. And that's what our company is focused on.
Right. So now is the price still $30?
So we have three price tiers, 10, 20, or 30. So
Mm-hmm.
you basically save around 30% on going to the movies. If you go once a month or more, then you'll
Mm-hmm.
probably want to have a movie pass or a subscription to some theatrical service
Mm.
because you end up saving money. And so uh, but we set different price points that the more you think you'll want to go, you can add that you can go up to that level. And in the middle of the month, if you find you've already used all of your credits for that month, you can
Mm.
add more in the middle of the month as well.
Wow. Okay. So you do have a $10 option, but it
Yep.
wasn't the full as much as
No,
you can eat option.
no,
Yeah.
no,
Okay.
no,
So
no.
now you're,
That
yeah.
option's no longer on the table. We did test
Oh.
it a little bit,
Hmm.
but it's just not sustainable.
Mm. Okay. So you can choose like a kind of how often you go, and people are generally going to save about 30%,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
With the
Exactly.
other option, they could have gone to movies nonstop and it would have
Yeah.
been saving way more than 30%.
Right. Yeah. You could see $300 worth of movies for $10 a month,
Mm.
basically, and that's
Insane.
just
And but
not
all see them
sustainable.
3 or 4 times.
Oh yeah, and people did do
You
that.
go over and over.
Yeah.
You could live in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So that's interesting that you have 3 tiers now and people still can do all that. Well, that's fascinating. Now, apart from that, you are a filmmaker. Tell me more about your urban.
Well, technically not a filmmaker.
Uh-huh.
Um, I've been a movie executive for most of my life. I've
Mm.
never had the pleasure of making a film. I've been a producer on some, an
Uh,
executive producer, but as a director or anything of
mhm.
that nature, I'm technically not that.
Okay. So you're the producing side.
I've been an executive producer on a handful of films.
So tell us about Urban World that you founded the festival.
Yeah, so I was an executive at Miramax, and I would go to festivals like Sundance and others, and there were just not a lot of people of color, um, showcasing at these festivals. And
Mm.
given the high ranking that I was at, and Miramax at the time was probably the most powerful studio on the planet, um, my profile drew a lot of attention, and I started getting a lot of filmmakers saying, "Can you help me? I can't get in the door. My
Mm.
film, I don't have any place to show it. I got rejected from these festivals." And so I decided I was going to make a film festival that people of color and women would be able to showcase. And the
Mm.
way I look at it as um, Urban World is to the movie industry what the Apollo was to the music industry back in the 50s and 60s. And so it's a showcase network that shows the best of what we have to offer. And then the studios are coming and acquiring. And so Ava DuVernay, the director, was
Mm-hmm.
our publicist, and Ava showcased her first film, Out of Urban World. Tim Story, who went on to direct Fantastic Four, came out of Urban World.
Mm-hmm.
Lee Daniels came out of Urban World. Malcolm D. Lee came out of Urban World. Rosaria Dawson and
Mm.
Kerry Washington. So all of this talent emerged out of this festival, and it was just my way of trying to give back and create a door that people could kind of get through since they weren't getting through other doors.
That is fantastic. How long has it been going?
Okay, I first have to preface this and say I started it when I was 5 years old,
Okay.
but it's now in its 28th year.
I thought so because all those people have been around quite a while.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that, so okay, I didn't know you were at Miramax, and
yeah,
that, of course, you're in the world, and that is what inspired you to do something about a subscription for movies.
yeah.
Okay, so where did the tech part come in? What's your background?
Yeah, I have no tech background, but what had happened was so the iPhone didn't exist um, when we first started working on it, and then all of a sudden you everything was on a web browser,
Hmm.
and so then suddenly Apple drops the iPhone, they create the App Store, and then
Mm,
there's this world called apps, and they're
mm,
native to either iOS or Android. So you had to figure out how to get your stuff built on them because now it was really designed for mobility. It was easier than a web browser. You're
hmm,
navigating the world with your thumb,
hmm.
and you need to be able to do it while someone's walking or, dare I
Yes,
say, driving sometimes,
yes,
and which they shouldn't be.
that's
And
right.
so the world shifted, and so we had to build a technology for that. And then we had a challenge of, well, how do we make this movie pass card that you can use anywhere? And
Mm,
do we go through each theater one at a time and plug into their API and seating chart? Or is there an
hmm,
easier way? So we actually had to create a fintech solution. And I'll get a little granular here, but it had
hmm,
to, one, geolocate and confirm you were at the theater you were saying you were at the in the app. Number
mm,
two, it needed to unlock the movie you wanted to see. Three, it needed to push funds based on geolocation and your account status. And then four, it needed to make sure you were buying a movie ticket and not going by gas or pizza, right? So
mm,
all of those things needed to be combined, and that tech didn't exist. So we had to hire engineers and engineering teams to build all of that technology out. And once we created it, we got a patent for our
hmm.
technology. And so that's how it all came to be.
Amazing. And do you sell that patent to other people?
No, we keep it for ourselves. And that's the patent that I actually bought back for
Oh, oh,
$140,000.
that's the patent you got. Okay, now I'm getting it. So nobody is allowed to create something like that because you have the patent on it.
Yeah, so the way you could do it now, so movie theaters do have subscription plans, but if you wanted to do one that covered all theaters, which
Hmm.
is what ours is, you would have a problem.
Hmm.
You'd bump into one of our
Yeah.
our patents.
Well, okay, so smart.
Yeah,
All right, this is so fascinating. Now, you don't have tech background. You just hired tech people and harnessed.
yeah,
That's why you won the tech award.
yeah,
This is all
yeah.
brilliant stuff. How did you get into Miramax? Where did you start? I'm fascinated to hear this.
Yeah. So I originally started at Motown and I became a product manager there. And my first group was Boys to Men. And from there, we all kind of know Boys to Men blew up and became huge. And by the time I was 21, I was representing Boys to Men, Queen Latifah, Eddie Murphy, Stevie Wonder, and doing Spike Lee soundtracks.
Amazing.
And so I got lucky. I was at the right place at the right time. And then when Sony started, they were about to release the first film, Bad
Hmm.
Boys. I got hired to go to Sony, and I did the Bad Boys soundtrack. So we had the number one single,
Hmm.
we had the number one video, we had the number one soundtrack, and the number one movie all at the same time.
Wow.
And so I did a bunch of soundtracks and stuff at Columbia. Then I get a call from Miramax, and they were like, "We want you to come and help us with our younger content." They were really doing great with all of the Oscar
Hmm.
content, but it wasn't as profitable because they spent so much money on those Oscar
Hmm.
campaigns. And so they really wanted to get their younger films. So they brought me over, and I did films like The Crow and Train Spotting
Hmm.
and Emma with Gwyneth
Hmm.
Paltrow. And so I did all of the marketing for all of those films. And right around that time, I realized I'm going to film festivals, and all of these black and brown and female filmmakers are saying, "Can Is there any way you can help me in this
Mm.
industry? I'm struggling. I can't get in through any doors." And that was when I created Urban
Mm.
World, which was in 1997.
Wow, you
I was only 5
that's
years
right. You
old
don't
when
look
I was.
older. You're saying all these long ago dates, and I'm like, how is that even possible? So you started in music, actually.
Yeah, yeah, I was in the music industry.
Well, and
Yeah.
were you a musician at some point?
I was in a Rush cover band in high school, and it's embarrassing, but yes, I was in a Rush cover band, and we never really played other than in people's living rooms and stuff. We never went on tour,
Hmm.
anything like that. And then I went to Los Angeles, and I was going to go be a star, and that didn't work out. And I got a desk job, but then lo and behold, I think because I appreciated the music industry from a different perspective, I gelled with the artists really well. I understood their process and what they thought and their point of view, and I wasn't just a suit to them. And one thing led to another, and like I said, I ended up representing those groups, and the rest is history.
Amazing. Sounds like there was some luck involved.
Of course,
Okay.
it was all luck.
Now, it wasn't all luck. I believe that like every single successful person admits there's some luck, but it's not all luck. There's charisma, there's luck, there's drive, there's interest in other people, there's smartness. And it certainly wasn't luck that you bought back MoviePass. Now, I want to circle back to MoviePass. Let's just
Okay,
go through all the mistakes that those people made who bought MoviePass from you, because I think there's a real lesson here. And certainly Mark Wahlberg saw it
okay,
that way. But why don't we just sort of
yeah.
fast track without having people having to watch that right now? What did he do wrong?
Um, so the price point as a promotional price point, I think is fine. People run promotions all the time. But the first mistake was they didn't. Once the data was in based on usage, especially after about 60 to 90 days, you pretty much know then what the behavior is going to be. And we knew the first month you're going to go 4 times, and then you're going to go three, and then you're going to settle around two, 2.5. We had 5 years of data that said that. And so if I am bringing on so many people at a $10 price point, and I'm losing uh, $35 per person per
Mm,
month, it will take me years to get to some break even point, and a whole lot of other things have to happen. So the first thing was they didn't then adjust that price
hmm.
for the realities of the business.
Hmm.
They cared about a growth number, but they didn't care about a
Profit. Okay,
profitability.
so that was the first mistake. They didn't,
Yeah,
a lot of people do this. You tell about the revenues,
yeah,
but you say, yeah, but what are your profits?
yeah.
It's more important.
The first was not adjusting the price, and second, I would say, was not building a subscription business that was sustainable. You built something for growth, but you didn't build it that it's okay if you say, and this is, some businesses do this, if we need to climb up to the outer atmosphere, and then we'll be so above the atmosphere that there'll be no more weight. And
Mm,
I'll use the I'm using that as an analogy, but what happens is you can climb high enough that your cogs come down.
Mhm.
So they're really expensive when you make 1,000 of them, but when you make 1,000,000 of them, the costs will come
Mhm.
down. The problem was no matter how high you got, the cost of the movie ticket was staying the
Mhm.
same. And there's 200 million people who go to the movies. So you're never going to outrun that cost factor unless you either own a theater chain and you're able to push that cost down.
Mm.
But because of what they call MLAs, and you as a filmmaker will know this, but the master licensing
Mhm.
agreements between the distributor and the theater says you can't drop my prices because I need to make my money back. So you can't just give my movie tickets away.
Mhm.
So in an MLA, they have an agreed upon ceiling and agreed upon
Mhm.
floor. So the guys didn't understand that even if the movie theater wanted to give them discounted tickets, it only could do so much because of those
Yes.
MLAs. They believed if we get big enough, we can force it down. And the
Mm.
MLAs are governed by the Screen Actors
Yes.
Guild, the Writers Guild, and those guilds are not going to just say, sure, go give my clients tickets away.
Right.
So they were very naive in how they didn't understand how the industry works. Everybody's locked into these agreements that they can't just
Right.
turn off.
So there was a mistake of them not doing their research about the industry they bought into.
Well, I wouldn't say it was a mistake that they didn't do the research. I think they ignored
Oh.
seasoned veteran founders who were sitting in front of them telling them you can't do this.
Mhm.
So it's not that they didn't have the information. They did in myself and my co-founder. They chose
To
to
ignore
ignore it.
it. So
Yeah.
why would they do that?
A lot of there's whether it's Theranos or WeWork or there's when you're publicly traded, you can in some ways outrun your negative cost.
Mm.
And if everyone believes you're a rocket ship and your negative cost is $30 a month, but you're bringing in 30 million a month, but you're bringing in 60 million in
Mhm.
investors, you can run that,
Mhm.
right? So I think they believed we'll outrun
Mhm.
the negative cost, but unfortunately the market then turned and they no longer believed that they were as valuable as they were and that it was sustainable.
Mm. Wow.
And then the market turned,
Right.
stock price started to fall.
Okay. They also made the mistake of firing you.
Well, yeah, I mean, even if you fired me, you should have heeded
Right.
what myself and others were trying to tell you is, um, but again, that was also part of the time.
Mhm.
Part of the times where you were losing a bunch of money, but you grew, grabbed market share, and then figured it out later, whether it was eyeballs and you had so many consumers and many companies are like, wow, we have all these people, but we don't know how we're going to make money.
Mm.
And that's great if you have a social media
Mhm.
company where they're entertaining themselves.
Yes.
It's user generated content. So they're all watching each
Mhm.
other. Then you figure out how to monetize it. That's a different business than you have a very fixed cog
Mhm.
that is not likely to be pushed down as much as you think it's going to. Um, and you don't choose to adhere to that.
Right. This is very different from a platform. This is a
That's right.
product. It's a subscription
That's right.
to something that they don't have control of the price over because there's all these other people involved. So it sounds like they maybe
That's right.
confused two models that,
Yeah.
you're correct. Social media.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
thought it was
Yeah.
Netflix. They thought it was Netflix, but Netflix was in theory, using the movie analogy, Netflix was the
Hmm.
producer, it was the distributor, and it did a direct deal
Hmm.
with the audience, and it knew how much it was bringing in, and then it could subsidize those films, it could
Hmm.
finance them over things, it could do debt financing, it had all of these ways because it was all the links in the chain from the product to the consumer. It was a direct
Yeah.
to consumer platform. So they just figured, oh, we're
Mm,
Netflix. No,
mm.
you're not. You don't have, those rules are not the same.
The same way that Blockbuster was not Netflix. Very different. That was another
Yeah,
story.
yeah,
Blockbuster was
right.
so huge, we never thought Blockbuster was going to go under, but they didn't see the writing on
Yeah,
the wall.
yeah, and a mail service in the internet
Right.
put them out of business.
Who knew, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Stacy, what's next for MoviePass? What's your vision of MoviePass's future?
Yeah, one of the things that we want to bring to the market is the ability to see movies for free and use ad supported layers. So, and you know this from filmmaking. So, movies often need to help underwrite their costs by getting
Hmm.
sponsors or product placement deals. So, if you have a movie like James Bond, there's Heineken, there's Hugo Boss suits, there's
Cars.
um, Omega Watch, there's Aston Martin and Mercedes. So all of these products come to market with when the film
Hmm.
comes to market, and they run very big advertising campaigns along with the
Mm.
release of the movie. Well, with the brands spend so much money trying to reach that audience, well, we said, well, what if I could give you a pre-show that has all of those brands in it in exchange for your
Mm.
movie ticket? And what if I give you a and it to the advertiser? What if I give you a biometrically confirmed view that that person saw it and they're part of the audience that
Hmm.
you're trying to reach? So now, so today, advertising is in between
Hmm.
your content. So what we built out was the first time the advertising is now separate. I can watch the branded content and then you can go earn your credits and go
Hmm.
see the movie without it being in there. So what it does is it gives the movie industry for the first time the ability to capture a second revenue stream in the form of advertising that it's never been able to do.
That's fascinating. And then you can say to people for certain films, this one's free. So you get like you get a bonus film.
Absolutely. You can say, yep, say here's Dune, go see Dune for free
Hmm.
for a limited time. There'll be movie tickets and they'll watch a bundled ad package, kind of like taking
Hmm.
that pre-show that
Hmm.
sits before the movie, but giving it to you on your device that you can
Hmm.
watch whenever you want and saying, once you're done with that, we'll put the credits in your account.
Oh, it's pay for play, earned like a game. Oh, so if you and how long is
Yeah.
this medley of advertising?
Right now, we've tested anywhere from 30 minutes to
Oh.
an hour, but you get to watch whatever you want, whenever you want. It's on your own, it's
Hmm.
on your device, but we send you that as a bundle and then you watch it
Okay,
and
so
you
you got
go
to
from
watch
there.
an hour of advertising to unlock a freebie. That's fascinating.
Yeah,
You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the old days where they had an intermission,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like the
yeah,
theater. Remember the old films? Some of them still say intermission on them,
yeah. In the middle, yeah, there was
and
an
then they
intermission in the middle of a 3 hour
but you
movie.
paid for the movie as well. But that is a good
Yeah.
idea in a way because it would then help in the artistic integrity of some films and also television shows. Now, I don't know. Have you ever watched any Korean dramas ever?
I have, yeah, I have, yes.
They have the most blatant product placement I've ever seen. I don't know if have you seen those? They are literally, it fascinated me because they're literally mini commercials with the stars of the show playing it out about the product in the story.
Do you mean this watch that I'm
No, but it's
wearing?
literally like
It's
they'll be showing them
like,
vacuuming and they
right,
have a close up
right.
of the vacuum with the
Yes.
brand and then the
Yeah.
vacuums in like
Yeah.
a lot of
Of
scenes
course.
and they somehow
Yeah.
work it out that each character, several, are using the same vacuum and also that all those characters would even do the vacuuming, you know, or the
That's
Nescafe
right.
like coffee making machine and they show a close up of the brand
Yeah.
and then making it and it literally is like mini commercials. If you cut that bit out, but
Their
it's a
product
mini
placement.
commercial,
That's right.
unlike the way Americans do it.
That's
Americans,
right.
there's just it's kind of well done, but
Yeah.
it's nuanced
It's
and it's not like
nuanced. Yeah,
close
it's
up
more
on the
nuanced.
person going, this is so good.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
for that, it would
Yeah.
definitely make it more integrous. Okay, so that's a fascinating idea.
Yeah.
And then these brands all, you do like kind of like a mix of all the brands with, and it's a whole hour long.
Yeah.
Well, there must be quite a few brands in there.
It can be anywhere
Right.
from a half hour to an hour, depending upon what
Right.
the ad rate is. So we've tested it. What we haven't done is tested what the value to the
Mm-hmm.
advertisers will be. If the advertisers are willing to pay more, the time comes down and is cheaper. If the advertisers are willing to pay less, then it's more time. And we need to find
Mm-hmm.
that equilibrium between time spent and
Mm-hmm.
time earned, and whatever that may be. If the earning time is too long, people won't do it. But if the watch time is too
Mm-hmm.
low and makes it too expensive for the brands,
Mm.
then they won't do it. So we have to find that what is human attention valued at by per 30
Mm.
seconds. And that's what you need to settle on, and that's what is the next step in our
And that's what the
process.
whole, football, what's it called? Every year, the
Super
Super
Bowl?
Bowl, that's right. The Super
Yeah,
Bowl, the 30
yeah,
seconds, right? They figured out what is
yeah,
that 30 seconds for all those eyes on
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're paying millions of dollars for
Very
that.
interesting. And also, it will be hard with advertising like that. It's hard for the companies to know whether there are sales from that. That's hard to track.
Well, they can measure. They can measure that. They can measure ROI, whether it's click through.
Oh,
They can. They can do. You can do promo codes. You can say, hey, if you come and test drive this
mm,
car, and so there are very easily traceable ways to determine is there a better ROI. We did some testing early on, and what we did was we showed them a commercial. We showed them a 30-second commercial, and then we showed them a long form. So I'll give you an example of say Peloton with
mhm,
the bike. And at the end, we said the same offer. If you'd like to test this Peloton out for 30 days, you can return it no money back, or it'll start a subscription. We got a 70% more engagement when we showed them a 3-minute piece
mm,
over a 30-minute piece.
mm,
When the founder was talking about how he and his wife had kids and they still liked their spinning classes,
mhm,
but they couldn't go and they wanted to still be able to be part of it. So they created this company.
mhm,
Well, that story worked better for conversion than just a commercial with the skinny model on a
mm,
bike. And so we actually were able to measure engagement and found that the unaided brand recall was in the 90th percentile, where television is only around 20%. And the conversion rate was in the 70th percentile, which is in the single digits through regular television.
That's incredible. Maybe everybody's going to realize that television advertising, I think people just are turning off to that. It's just so old. That's fascinating. So, apart from MoviePass, do you have any other projects on the boil?
Um, I mean, really, it's maintaining what we're doing with MoviePass,
Hmm.
what we're doing with Urban World, and then bringing in the advertising, the pre-show technology part of it. Those really are the three things that have me absolutely running around all over the country and the world.
Mm,
I've already, in the first 6 months, flew almost 50,000 miles in the first
gosh,
6 months of this year.
wow.
So it's a lot. I don't know that I have more that I can put on
Mm,
my plate at the
mm.
moment.
Okay, well, this has been wonderful. Stacy, what's something that you live by that you want to share with people as far as mindset or philosophy?
You know, I think preparedness, being prepared for possible opportunities, is really key, because that's what we
Mm,
call luck. Because if you aren't prepared, but the opportunity comes, then it gets lost. And we say, boy, I wish I had this or that. And so I think being prepared for opportunities that may present themselves. And I think, too, showing up in a way as if they will. People will say, well, you don't have enough money. You're not the right color. You're not the right background. You're not a
mm,
man. You didn't go to Stanford. But if you still act as if I don't care, I'm going to get through that wall. Walls are designed to keep people out who don't want it
mm,
bad enough. And so there's not a wall that you can't run through, climb over, dig under, or go around. And so you just have to have the persistence to prevail, and no matter what, lock in on something and don't let anyone deter you. Because if it exists in you, then God and the universe made it. And therefore, you are the best person designed, because you have an obsessive compulsion that this
Mm.
can change. And the universe, whenever it wants to make something different, it sends someone who has that obsessive, different view of how this can exist, whether it's electric cars, whether it's reusable rockets, whether it's subscription for going to the number one out of home entertainment
Mm.
activity in the world. It's like, so that I that's what I would say is being prepared for opportunities.
That is great stuff. By the way, do you do any public speaking at all, apart from podcasts?
A lot.
I figured
A
that.
lot. Yeah, a lot. It's increasing more and more. When my
Mhm.
book came out, that definitely increased it. And now with the documentary being out there, I'm speaking a lot. Yes.
Well, Stacy, this has been fascinating. Now, what's the name of your book so everybody can go buy it?
So it's called Black Founder: The Hidden Power of Being an Outsider.
Wow. Okay, they can get that, I'm guessing, all over the place, Amazon, everywhere.
All over. And what I tried to do is take the lessons of what I learned. And a lot of times people feel it's you need to have gone to the right school or learn how to code, or and what I do is say, let me show you how, if you don't have any of those things, how that can be an advantage for you. And one of the things is an outsider sees the world without the constraints that incumbents do, and there's a power to that. And also, when you're an outsider, you bring a group to the table with you, whether it's your community or those who are backing you as an advocate in a space. And there's a lot of power to that. And so I kind of break those things down that people don't
Mm.
automatically see. They'll say, well, I don't have enough money. Well, money, when you look at Thomas Edison with the light bulb, he created 5,000 tests before
Mhm.
he got it right. When you look at the Wright brothers, they were bicycle makers, right? They didn't have the money that other people had. And so it's not about the money, it's your ability to test often and repeatedly, so often. And if you can make that testing cheap and
Mm.
easy, you're most likely to win. Where big corporations, it costs them a lot of
Mhm.
money to test. So you by yourself, there were electric companies. Why didn't any of the electric companies create the light bulb? The electric companies already
Mm.
existed. So here's one inventor who's running so many cycles that he outpaces innovation from anyone. And so that's a hidden opportunity that a lot of people don't realize. And so I really break down how the illusion is I have to have money, I have to have prestige, I have to have come from the right place, I have to be the
Mhm.
right color. All those myths you can break, and I'm evidence of that. And I show how historically innovation does not come from the
Mm.
ivory towers. It comes from within, and it comes humbly from the streets.
Yes, because, necessity is the mother of invention, not the corporations, right?
Yeah.
So I love your story. You're delightful. If you want to buy his book, please go on Amazon and we will have a link. Well, moviepass.com, so we know that. If you want to reach out to Stacy, Stacy, how can people reach you?
You can go on my LinkedIn. That's probably the fastest way to get me, and it's Stacy Spikes. Just look me up, get me there, and we've got a really fun Instagram page also, so you can also DM me there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time and your value here. And also, thank you, everybody, for listening. If you want to subscribe, please do so. If you want to share, we'll see you on the next wonderful episode. You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact.